Join us for the next episode of The Right Choice, Wednesday at 8 p.m. on UPP YouTube TV.
My father died when I was just 5 years old. My mother came from Willikie's village. She had 5 young mouths to feed, and she toiled on her sewing machine to make ends meet. She was a strong woman who taught us right from wrong. And even though she struggled, the choices she made put us on the right path. I made the choice to work hard, play by the rules, and get an education. I had a number of opportunities, but I chose to return to Antigua and inspire the next generation. I taught at the Antigua Grammar School, and it's here that I saw firsthand how education transforms lives. I made the choice to get into politics because of the lack of resources that I saw in our schools. I saw how our teachers and families struggled, whilst an elite few got ahead. When the people granted us the opportunity to serve in government, we had a lot of work to do. As Minister of Finance, I helped to clean up the rot of 30 years of one-party rule. We saw our country through the global financial crisis and the Stanford collapse. Through all of that, we introduced the school meals program, the school uniform program, and laptops for children. While we were not perfect, no one is perfect but Almighty God. We worked day in and day out to defend the nation and put people first. Today I see too many families struggling for a lack of jobs and the mental stress that comes with it. The cost of living is out of control. And for too many of us, water is still not readily available. And our needed pension checks are not coming on time. While the elite few did well, the ABLP denied you the right to choose what you put in your body. Whilst we believe in vaccines, we don't believe it's the responsibility of government to control your bodies. We will bring an end to all the mandates. This election is about choice, and we believe that we are the right choice because we give you the choice.
Are you ready? Beautiful people, are you ready to get off your feet and release that blue energy? Well, move to the front of the class and throw your hands up in the air for The Right Rhythm. The Right Rhythm, a weekly musical experience featuring Antigua and Barbuda's top DJs. 2 hours of musical entertainment every Friday night from 8 p.m. on UPP, YouTube TV, and streamed live on all media platforms, as well as Progressive 107.3 FM. It's The Right Rhythm, brought to you by the United Progressive Party. The right choice.
I just feel like people not understand me. I don't want to even give me a chance. Go to school, I'm a hard skill. I'm a hard worker, but there's just not enough jobs out there. The economy is so bad that I'm ashamed to say that we're in the year 2022 and water hardly won near the pipe. Now them can't tell how we, in order to get a job, I must take the job. I understand the vaccine is a good thing and all that, but I just hate the fact that it's mandated. It's my body, it's my choice. I shouldn't be denied a job, education or benefits because the choices I make for my body. For me, this time, personally, the UPP is the right choice because they are the party of choice.
UPP TV presents The Right Choice, a show created to highlight the candidates of the United Progressive Party and their ideas and plans for the future. Here's your host for The Right Choice, Dr. Jackie Quinn.
Good evening, and welcome to UPP TV, and welcome to the 7th edition of The Right Choice. Tonight is really going to be a special night. Tonight we are sort of switching gears and going over to the sister island of Barbuda. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are featuring the political leader of the Barbuda People's Movement and the MP for Barbuda, the Honorable Trevor Walker. We're going to focus tonight on all things Barbudan, a little about his life, his experiences, his vision, of course, and his plans for the sister island of Barbuda. And of course, we'll talk to him about his vision for the nation of Antigua and Barbuda. Remember, you can join us on any of our media platforms. here on UPP TV, on Progressive 107.3 FM, on my UPP Facebook page, and certainly on YouTube. Let us start, though, with Mr. Walker's bio. Born in Barbuda to Dorrit Beezer, Trevor Mike Walker has always been a son of the soil and a man of the people. He was educated in Barbuda at the Holy Trinity School before attending St. Leo's University in Florida, where he was awarded a degree in economics. Trevor returned to Barbuda and worked at the then K Club for 9 years as a financial controller and then assistant general manager overseeing all operations of the five-star resort. After dedicating those years in the hotel industry, Trevor decided to shift his focus towards the community. The people saw his passion and approached him, and many even pleaded for him to enter the political arena. Trevor Walker was first elected to the Barbuda Council in 2001. After winning a by-election, he transitioned to become the political leader of the Barbuda People's Movement, BPM, in 2004. He has been serving as the leader of the BPM for 18 strong years, 18 strong years, and he is currently the sitting member of parliament for Barbuda. Under the UPP's administration, Trevor Walker was appointed Minister of State in the office of the Prime Minister, responsible for Barbuda affairs in April 2004. During the UPP's second term in office, he served as a full minister, Minister of Works and Transport. Walker unsuccessfully defended his Barbuda seat in the 2014 elections, losing to Arthur Nibbs of the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party by a single vote. However, in 2018, he returned to represent Barbuda for the BPM with a large majority after Hurricane Irma devastated the island. His win was an important victory as Barbudans, young and old, were forced by the Antiguan government to travel back to Antigua to vote in an unexpected general election after the hurricane, in spite of Barbuda being a constituency in its own right. Trevor's mandate from the people was to secure Barbuda land rights and to bring the right kind of development to Barbudans on their own terms. The people of Barbuda have been adamant about the type of leadership they want to represent them in the House of Parliament, which is someone who echoes the voice of the people whom he represents, and Trevor has done just that right up to this day. Trevor is a family man. He's married to Maxine, and together they have 2 adult children. I want to welcome to the right choice my friend, my colleague, my brother, Honorable Trevor Walker. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be here tonight speaking to the people of Antigua and Barbuda and the rest of the world, but most importantly speaking to the people of Barbuda. It's a pleasure to be on the Right Choice Show.
Thank you so much. We're going to take our first commercial break, and we're going to come right back. Remember, you can start sending your comments and your questions, because at the end of the show, the last segment of the show, we try to share your comments and your questions. And you may just hear your comments being read out on The Right Choice. Do stay with us.
Make the right choice, the right choice, the right choice. UPP ready to run the country with sustainable growth.
Time to join the family at the People's Cooperative Credit Union Limited. We offer savings accounts, deposits, fixed deposits, loans, among other related services. You can even become a shareholder by purchasing a minimum of 50 shares at $5 per share. Membership is super easy and convenient. Just visit our newly opened credit union building on Upper Newgate Street, Monday to Fridays, 8:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. with proof of ID and address, along with $15 to cover registration and passbook. And you'll be set and on your way. For further information, call 462-8888 or 727-2285. People's Cooperative Credit Union Limited. Today, tomorrow, together.
First, he gassed us. Then, he lied to us.
We have made it abundantly clear that no one, absolutely no one in our country will be vaccinated if they do not wish to be. We uphold that right and respect it.
Can we really trust him not to implement mandates for children aged 5 to 11? Vote them out!
Welcome back to The Right Choice. Tonight it's a very, very special evening. We're featuring our sister island of Barbuda. And we have in the house the Honorable Trevor Walker, the MP for Barbuda, and also the leader, the political leader of the Barbuda People's Movement. I just want to remind our audience, you can join us on Progressive 107.3, UPP TV, Facebook, and some of you might be joining on the Zoom platform. Send in your comments, send in your questions, and you certainly will hear some of those being read in the final segment of the program. Now, Brother Trevor, you were a successful economist, financial controller. You rose to the level of the assistant general manager at the 5-star K Club Hotel. You were at the pinnacle of your career. You were on a path to a successful financial career in the hospitality industry, in any industry that you would have wanted to take up. Why politics? I want you to share with our audience what would have prompted you to turn away from finance and economics and to run for politics. What would have shaped you there?
Well, I must say, I mean, having returned to Barbuda from university in the late 80s, I saw exactly what was happening at the time with the way Barbuda was being treated. And having traveled to Florida to go to school for 4 years, you know, coming back to Barbuda, noticing the lack of infrastructure, noticing that Barbuda really wasn't getting anything under the relationship that existed with Antigua. Simple things like Barbuda didn't have paved roads, Barbudans weren't afforded opportunities to go out and study, you know, at a tertiary level. Representation in Barbuda in terms of Barbudans being able to compete on a level playing field, even in Antigua. I said to myself, this is not right. Having educated myself with a tertiary education, coming back to Barbuda, communicating with my friends from Antigua who we all went to the same university with, I asked myself, why is Barbuda in this state? Why is it that we have no paved roads? Why is it that Barbuda infrastructure is so low compared to that of Antigua? Why is it that Barbuda have no doctors? Why is it that Barbudans don't have opportunities, you know, like I did, to go off and study at universities to become professionals? Why is it that the Barbuda Council was struggling even to maintain the basic functions that existed at the time? And I said to myself, I have to get involved. And, you know, it took a while because I never got involved until 2001. But I said to myself, I must get involved and help push that cause forward. And that is why I got into politics in 2001 when I won my seat on the Barbuda Council itself. And I was a part of that administration trying to get some justice for the people of Barbuda.
Mm-hmm. And in those early days, who were the role models? Because when I think back to those days that I was in journalism and I covered people like the Honorable Hilborn Frank, the Honorable Eric Burton, and they were like lone voices in the wilderness speaking. Yes. Who are some of the people that would have shaped your political acumen and shaped your thought processes?
Well, back then, I mean, I studied people like Sir Mac Chesney George, and I studied his history. And I said to myself, especially for Sir Mac Chesney George, I mean, he was so close to the then V.C. Byrd, the Premier and then Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda. He was actually one of his legal advisors. And I said to myself, why is it that Mac Chesney George spent so much time being at the side of V.C. Byrd, and yet still, as a Barbudan, we're still so far behind? I was inspired in the end, the things that he tried to accomplish for Barbuda. Sir Claude Earl Francis, who made sure before independence the Barbuda Local Government Act became a reality, so that we have local governance in Barbuda on a certain level. And then even Arthur Nibbs, I'm telling you, that those days Arthur Nibbs was one of those firing voices on trail, trying to make sure justice and equal rights comes to Barbuda in terms of how we're treated by the government. So Hillbone Frank, who was the then MP, who always said to us that the land belonged to us and we should ensure we fight for that right. So I said to myself, man, these are people who really put their lives on the line. And as a young Barbudan, I must make sure that I align myself with that cause. And those are some of the people that really shaped that type of instinct, that created that fire, that caused me to be a part of the political landscape of Antigua and Barbuda, more so Barbuda, up to today.
And you started out on the council as a member of the Barbuda Local Government Council, and then you rose to the ranks of political leader. Tell us about that transition, because it must have been a struggle for you to get from the council as a member, an ordinary member, to finally rising to the ranks of leader of the party.
That was a very interesting transition, because in 2001, I ran for a seat in the Barbuda Council, and I won that seat 3-1, because it was a by-election. So I was on the council, general elections are approaching 2004, and members of the party approached me and said, listen, Mr. Walker, I mean, you know, the party needs a successor from Sir Hillbone, and we see you as the person who can take that mantle forward. I mean, I said, like Jeremiah, me? I mean, I'm a young man. I haven't gone nowhere into politics. I have no experience in the politics. I mean, I just won a seat on the local council in 2001. I mean, remember at that time, Arthur Nibbs was still a member of the BPM. You have all these senior members. Why me? And so I grappled with that. I prayed about it, and I said, listen, you know, I'm not ready. I remember 2 particular members of the party came to my house, and they spoke to me and my wife, and they said, listen, Mr. Walker, I mean, you have to rise to the challenge. And, you know, they convinced my wife, because my wife honestly never wanted me to get involved into politics. I mean, I guess most wives, you know, politics is one of those things that your spouses just wish that you stay far from. But they managed to convince us, and I said to myself, I'm going to try, you know. And still, I didn't grasp the responsibility that came with that, with the position of even running for MP. And so I went to my grandmother, who was alive at that time, and I said, Mommy, because I called her Mommy, I said, Mommy, so-and-so asked me to run for representative. You know, because that's how we say it in Barbuda.
Yes.
And Mommy said, representative, what happened to Arthur Nibbs and the bigger people, you know, the more experienced people? I said, Mommy, they asked me, you know. And she said to me, think about it. So I went back to her about a week after, and Mommy said, listen, anything you put your mind to, you can do it. And so she said to me, don't turn down this opportunity, because there's a reason God asks people to approach you. That was the turning point for me. And you know, sometimes, Jackie, older folks have that way of getting to that part of you that you don't even understand. Right? And so that is when I finally, you know, wholeheartedly said, I'm going to do this. And so I went to the campaign, 2004, a young man going up against Arthur Nibbs, who was, you know, stalwart in politics. The votes were counted, we were tied, you know. I had 2 choices at that time. One was to ask for a recount, or 2, just to do the election over. I said to myself that night, if I ask for a recount, you never know, there might have been a ballot stuck together for Arthur Nibbs and he would have won the election. That's a huge risk. I said to myself, let's go to a runoff election, because I was confident, the elections weren't over at the time, that the UPP would take the election. And I was thinking, if the UPP takes the election, the Barbudans would lean against Arthur Nibbs based on the fact that the government have changed. You know, that's what I thought. And lo and behold, we did that. And on the 20th of April, the elections were called over, and I won the election by 14 votes. And from then, I became a part of the cabinet, which I was very happy for. And that's how my political career was propelled to where I am today. You know?
So it has always been a quite close race in Barbuda in terms of leadership of the BPM. and also in terms of the general elections.
That's correct.
Because it seems as though there's this affinity, familial affinity in Barbuda, down the middle.
Well, what I can say about that is, I mean, you know, and I have to call it straight. Arthur Nibbs was a very formidable candidate. I mean, Arthur Nibbs was in politics since he was 18 years old. And for a newcomer like me to go up against him would have been difficult. Barbuda itself is divided into families and friends and so on. And he would have developed in politics, you know, that type of camaraderie where he had a lot of people supporting him for various reasons. So I always thought it would be difficult to come up against him and to run away, you know, like what I did in 2018
Yes.
In terms of the votes. But I think after things changed and persons started to understand what was at stake, I think the dynamics of the vote changed and the results changed as well.
Now, talk to us, Brother Trevor, about some of the qualities, the main qualities of a good political leader. You've been leading the BPM for 18 years.
Yes.
It says that you're a man of substance. It says that you're a competent professional. It says that you're an empathetic leader. Tell us, what are some of the qualities that the people of Barbuda see in you as a great political leader?
Well, let me say, I mean, before I answer your question, I do have my critics even within the party. Some think I'm too soft, some think that I'm very passive. But the overriding thing for people when it comes to me in Barbuda, I mean, I grew up in a family where my grandmother raised me. I was the grandchild living with my grandfather and my grandmother and their son. So I basically didn't have siblings around me on a daily basis like that. The qualities for me was my church life. Barbuda is divided into 3 sections: the Malata Quarter area, the Middlesex area, and the Park area. My grandmother used to take me from the Malata Quarter area where we lived, and we go to Top Mission on the other side of the village.
Yes.
And, you know, that really instilled a lot in me, because where we lived in Barbuda at that time, it was that place, that part of Barbuda where people thought was at the lowest level. They always thought the Middlesex people and the Park people were brighter than us. They have better facilities than us. For example, in those days, electricity was always a problem. And if there were load shedding, in terms of the load were too much, the first place that would come off is Malata Quarter area. You know, that's just a fact.
Yes.
Malata Quarter area where I lived had 1 street light, 1. You know, you go to Madison and Park, and so you have East Parkgate, West Parkgate, and so on. So, you know, I came up living in an area that, you know, was quite interesting. And just yesterday, for example, I was telling somebody, notwithstanding what I've accomplished in my life, in terms of personally and otherwise, I never forget those days living in that area.
Yes.
Because most people didn't expect much of persons living in that area. All right? So that shaped me in terms of, you know, growing up in a humble in a humble way, and the way my grandmother ensured that I became part of church, which instilled certain values and so on in me. So people see me as a person who's very humble, a person who's approachable and measured. That's the biggest word for it. I'm very measured. It takes a lot to push me over the edge, or even push me anyway. And I like to think about things before I make decisions. And people trust my judgment, because most of the times I do things in collaboration with persons' input. And that is very important in a leader. None of us knows it all. None of us should think that our idea is the best idea. It's always good to listen to people. It's always good to understand how people feel, because that is important. Many times leaders hurt people's feeling and don't care about it. People don't trust you that way. And I'm not a leader who drives fear into people. And I think those are some of the things that people like about me. I'm approachable, where I live. People can come there, talk to me, engage me, and most importantly, they can always expect that I'll understand their position, as well as the fact that I try to let them understand where I come from as well.
And you know, you're being a little modest here, because I sat with you in cabinet for 10 years.
That is true.
And one of the qualities that I found in you, Trevor, was that you have a very analytical mind. You're not saying that? You're not telling the people that? I mean, a man who thinks logically,
yes,
very, you know, he can pinpoint all the fine details.
And thinking is good. You know, I always tell people that intellectuals are not necessarily educated people or people with degrees. Intellectuals are thinkers.
That's right.
And one of the things that I try to do, especially at certain times of the day, is to go for a walk. You know, anybody can tell you in Barbuda, they seems to walk on the road in the afternoon. And I use that time to do some introspection and reflection, and to try and, you know, look at certain things in a real meticulous way, and ask myself, if this was to happen, what would be my position? So you're right. I mean, I think a lot, and it's something that helps you in terms of your daily life.
Now, you served as the first Barbudan with a full cabinet position, holding a ministerial portfolio, and he had a very powerful portfolio. The Ministry of Public Works. In fact, there are some people who were saying, you know, why should Barbuda be the Minister of Public Works, you know? What would you single out as your proudest achievement?
At Public Works? Well, let me say, I mean, I must...
Not necessarily at Public Works,
generally,
it could be generally in politics.
Well, let me say first, on my position with the UPP and the government, is that I want to thank, again, former Prime Minister Baldwin Spence and yourself and all my colleagues back then for the confidence that they place in me as a Barbudan to be a part of the government on a level playing field.
Right.
And I know for sure that some people had issues, even, you know, but the confidence was something that I appreciated. And even I was on another media platform a couple of days ago, and I had to say it. I mean, I must thank my colleagues. I mean, I sat beside you for 10 years in Parliament, in Cabinet. We had many moments together in terms of how certain things, we see certain things. And I think at the end of the day, we moved Antigua and Barbuda in a better direction, the right direction, in terms of progress and prosperity. Now, for me, the biggest accomplishment and something that I cherish the most in terms of what happened in my political career so far was educational opportunities that were given to Barbudans under the UPP government / UPP BPM government. I remember after 2004, we had a proliferation of persons going off to study at tertiary institutions. And for me, the proudest moments are those doctors that we trained under the UPP.
Yes.
Dr. Jeremy Dazel. We had our own doctor, Dazel. You see, he's still there. Dr. Carisha Cornelius. Dr. Afi Barton. You know, I never thought of the day coming up in Malata Quarter that I would see a Barbudan doctor actually.
But Jeremy Dazel went to
Cuba to study in
under
Cuba.
The UPP administration. Okay.
Yes, it was Jeremy Dazel. They all went to study, and I said to myself, I was so proud to be in the administration.
I love that young man.
Yeah, I mean, he's brilliant.
Yes.
I mean, I give him kudos. I mean, during COVID, I'm telling you, he went way beyond the call of duty to ensure that Barbudans are kept safe. So that was something good for me, because here I am, because when I got back to Barbuda in the late 80s, there was only one person on the island who had a bachelor's degree, one other person. I was a second person on the whole island. And I said to myself, this is not good enough. I'm just telling myself, you know, we need to ensure that Barbudans are trained and that they get the opportunities. But back then, Jackie, under the Labour Party, it was extremely difficult. I can tell you, if I didn't get that scholarship from that particular hotel, I would not have been able to afford a university education. I would not probably be the person who I am. When I finished school, I passed my subjects. I was the first person who passed CXC math, because they introduced in the late 80s. You know, at that time they had basic and general. I did the general proficiency. I was the only person in my class who did general proficiency maths. The rest of the persons, my colleagues, did basic. When I finished my exams and I, you know, passed my subjects, etc., I applied to the Ministry of Education for a scholarship. Very difficult situation, because in those days, Barbudans just weren't allowed or given that opportunity to access scholarships. All right? And to cut a long story short, I got that scholarship from the K Club, and that is why I'm able to I am who I am today, and I was proud when I got into government. I was able, along with you, because you're the Ministry of Education, I have to give you kudos to tap and open that door for Barbudans, so that we not only send Barbudans to study in Cuba, but Barbudan went to Greece, one went to Mexico, all over the world, all under the UPP government, so that we can expand the knowledge base of our people.
Wow. We're going to be hearing a lot more about all the things happening in Barbuda, about Mr. Walker's plans, about his vision, about his fine analytical mind. And of course, we're going to talk about national issues as well.
Yes.
We're going to take our second break, and we are encouraging you, make sure you send in your comments. Make sure you put your questions in, because at the final segment of the program, you're going to hear those comments being read. Do stay with us. It's the right choice.
Urgency of now, the United Progressive Party.
Time to join the family at the People's Cooperative Credit Union Limited. We offer savings accounts, deposits, fixed deposits, loans, among other related services. You can even become a shareholder by purchasing a minimum of 50 shares at $5 per share. Membership is super easy and convenient. Just visit our newly opened credit union building on Upper Newgate Street, Monday to Fridays, 8:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. with proof of ID and address, along with $15 to cover registration and passbook. And you'll be set and on your way. For further information, call 462-8888 or 727-2285. People's Cooperative Credit Union Limited. Today, tomorrow, together.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Beautiful people, are you ready to get off your feet and release that blue energy? We'll move to the front of the class and throw your hands up in the air for the right rhythm. The right rhythm, a weekly musical experience featuring Antigua and Barbuda's top DJs. 2 hours of musical entertainment every Friday night from 8 p.m. on UPP, YouTube TV, and streamed live on all media platforms, as well as Progressive 107.3 FM. It's the right rhythm, brought to you by the United Progressive Party. The right choice.
My dream in this life is to see the time when I can cut that bow line. Just cut that rope from Antigua. That is my dream. I hope the Lord Almighty just spare my life just to see that day when Barbuda is liberated from Antigua. All right? I just want to see it. I don't have to live through. I want to be like Moses. I don't have to go over and live it. I don't have to be alive a day after. But I just want to see that day when we're liberated from this wicked Antigua Labour Party government, Mr. Speaker.
Welcome back. Welcome back to The Right Choice. We are focusing on our little sister, Codrington Barbuda, and we have in the house tonight Honorable Trevor Walker. He is the political leader of the Barbuda People's Movement, and he's also the Member of Parliament, the sitting Member of Parliament in Antigua and Barbuda. Now, Brother Trevor, we just heard that little clip of you, very passionate, very fiery about the relationship between Antigua and Barbuda. And I want you to speak to this because I keep hearing the disadvantage, the disrespect that's been meted out by this administration to the people of Barbuda and certainly to you as the MP. Talk to us a little about what are your ideas? Is it that you are saying you want secession, or is it that you do not like the relationship with the Antigua Labour Party government?
Well, let me say that For us in Barbuda, you know, we've lived a particular way for over 300 years. And when in 2018, the Gaston Brown administration decided to go to Parliament to repeal the Barbuda Land Act, that's one thing. And then to put on the books that we're tenants of the crown, tenants of the government. And if persons know what a tenant is, if I have a tenant in my house, I'm renting a house, the tenant can be evicted with notice. So basically what the Gaston Brown administration has done is to put on the books, the Parliament of Antigua and Barbuda passed a law that all Barbudans, all of us, are tenants. And whenever he's ready to evict us, we can be evicted. Now, I find nothing more egregious than a government that would do something like that to its own people. And I said in the Parliament that it will be a day of liberation when we are just rid of the Antigua Labour Party once and for all. Now, everybody knows my position when it comes to secession, Jackie. I personally believe, and this is my belief, that every person, nation, individuals, etc., should have a right to self-determination. Now, I do not want to raise my kids, my children, they're big now, by the way, to think that they should only always be under a unitary state. Maybe in the next whatever years, they might say, listen, Barbuda has come to a point where we have the infrastructure, we have the know-how, we have whatever it takes to decide to be on our own. That should be a given right they should have. All right? So I'm of the view that this government has destroyed the fabric of what creates a society in Barbuda. They have decided they're going to advantage the people of Barbuda, not only with the land, but resources. I mean, everything now, the Prime Minister said, is a bread basket, so everything is flowing out. All the resources, including taxes, including payments of leases for lands. I mean, we get basically nothing. We survive by the grace of Almighty God. And so for me, representing the people of Barbuda, they must understand how I feel, because it is not fair, it is not right. And one of these days, I'm still of the view that we're going to be liberated. But I just want the Antiguans to understand that even with what's happening over here, it is for your children's benefit that come the next general election, you must remove this wicked government from office. You have no choice. If you want a better Antigua, if you want Antigua to have lands for your generations to come, you must remove this government. If you don't want Gaston Brown and the Labour Party to sell all your assets, you must remove this government. And that is going to be the key in terms of how prosperity is seen going forward in the Twin Island state.
Well, now you know my personal views, and my personal views are not important, immaterial in this discussion. But the whole secessionist discussion and talk is something that I totally reject. You know that. Is that a prevailing view? I know that you want to get rid of this administration. I know that, they have dehumanized Barbudans. They have disadvantaged Barbudans in many ways. But is it a prevailing view across the length and breadth of Codrington, that secessionist view?
Especially now, because now that we see what's happening with the PLH project.
As in cutting ties, political ties from Antigua.
It is a prevailing view because now the Barbudans feel more at disadvantage than ever.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister and the government boast of the biggest project in the Caribbean. And yet still the Barbuda Council is behind by 30 weeks in wages. 4 months in payment of salaries.
That is wicked.
And all the taxes coming out. It's just the other day they're moving some topsoil from the site where the airport is. And PLH said to us that they've paid central government $1 million for the topsoil. Where's the money paid in Antigua? We can't fix potholes. We can't do anything, provide services in Barbuda. And you have an administration who brags about the progress being made in the state when we're not benefiting. If you were to do a poll today and ask Barbudan, are you happy with being a part of Antigua, they'll say no. And that is a problem because I know under the UPP we made progress and we did get to accomplish a lot. But this government have murkied the water so badly that it's going to take a lot to clear it up.
And we're going to talk a little about the progress that you would have made as minister with responsibility for Barbuda affairs. But Barbudans went through one of the worst ordeals in 2017 when Hurricane Irma devastated your land. You were, rightfully so, evacuated to mainland Antigua, where you were accommodated for months. But in the process where you had a big sister extending a hand to a little sister, to people who had gone through that ordeal, you were called names. Deracinated imbeciles, inbreeders. You were dehumanized by the big sister, the sitting administration. I want you, Brother Trevor, to talk to us about how painful this period of time was for you as the representative and for Barbudans.
Well, Jackie, it's interesting you mentioned that because that was one of the saddest moments of my political life. I would never had expected Lester Bird to have said something like that. He never did. Baldwin Spencer worse, he never did. And even V.C. Bird, when he was Prime Minister, never even came close to speak to Barbudans on that level. And when I heard Gaston Brown calling us inbreeders, economic terrorists just because you don't share the same vision with him. You're an economic terrorist.
And imbeciles, don't forget.
Deracinated imbeciles. Basically, we're fools. You understand? A prime minister, and what surprised me is that nobody in society, in certain sectors of society, condemned those statements. Not the Christian Council, not the Chamber of Commerce. Nobody condemned those comments. And sometimes I wonder in Antigua whether or not Gaston Brown and the Labour Party haven't driven fear in people to a point where they can't speak out. And if that is the case, then we're in a bad, bad state. And you know, I call it straight. People don't like how I speak straight, but I'm a very straight shooter because I said to myself at this stage of my life, I mean, I have no other choice but to do what the Almighty God wants me to do. And that is to lead the people and to be honest and to ensure that they get a better life. So all those names and so on, to me, now should be condemned. And two, Gaston Brown should apologize. You know, he went on his radio station and he said, oh, I'm only referring to some of the people. You should not even be referring to one. You're dehumanizing people. He did all that. Take us off Barbuda because another storm was threatening. Kept us here. Oh, after the storm passed, you can't go back because Barbuda is not safe. But he had his plans. While we were here in Antigua, they were pushing land in Barbuda, PLH, pushing forward what they're doing, building new airport, doing everything. Those people could have lived there, stayed there overnight. But me, I remember as a member of the council, because I wasn't elected as an MP yet, elected member of council, I had to go down to the ferry dock, get on the ferry at 8 o'clock. By 2 o'clock, I have to rush from my house in Barbuda, rush back to the ferry because I couldn't sleep there in Barbuda. It's the first time in my life I spent Christmas here because you're not allowed to stay there while other people are staying there. Because Gaston Brown and the Labour Party had a master plan. They were surveying the whole island, chopping it up in pieces so that they could do what they want for the people, to exclude the people of Barbuda. And what the worst thing for me was the general elections came around. And after
the 2018 snap
elections.
Yes.
So we managed to get back to Barbuda, I think just, late 2017, early 2018. We were allowed to go back there. We started to establish our schools in the church. No schools, the Ministry of Education refused to do anything to a school. And to push that along, we, the Barbuda Council and the people, had to get donations from our people in the diaspora, Canada, to fix Holy Trinity School. The central government, Ministry of Education, never provided a nail for Holy Trinity School. Sandals Corporation, the Sandals Foundation, Mill Reef, other places we had to reach out to get funding for that. We were without electricity for almost a year. A little 2x4 village that's probably smaller than Potters in terms of population. Almost a year, no electricity. You understand? So it was a plan to frustrate us, to let us believe that Barbuda cannot come back, and to have Gaston Brown and the government come up and implement a plan that will exclude us from our own island. So I want to say what we've been through after Irma. I don't know. The Most High said we have to forgive, and I'm a God-fearing person, and I do forgive, but I will never forget. And we must not ever forget. I remember in the scriptures in the Old Testament, Moses keep telling the children of Israel, teach your children, tell your children about your experiences, so that they'll never forget that the Most High God was the one who delivered them from the hands of the Egyptians.
I think those words will be forever seared on the minds of Barbudans, deracinated imbeciles, economic terrorists and inbreeders. Those are things that you will never, ever forget. Coming from a prime minister, someone who is supposed to be the shepherd for all of the people of Antigua and Barbuda. So, I mean, I don't think that Barbudans will ever forget that. What in this journey, Brother Trevor, has required the most courage of you so far?
That's a very good question, because the journey sometimes is very burdensome. You know, there's times, and I'm being very honest, where I ask myself, man, this is too much. You know, it's getting to a point where you just, maybe I'm not the person anymore. And I have to always pray for inspiration. And I must thank my wife too, because sometimes I get very down, and she's the one that really allow me to lean on her shoulders and get some kind of solace and comfort. And it's not easy even for her, because sometimes she herself, after listening to Parliament, sometimes it's you're still doing this, it's not easy, especially nowadays. But I mean, for me,
but Maxine is a strong woman.
She is she's I have a very good wife, a very committed wife in terms of the path that I'm on. And we discuss politics all the time, because it's important to have a strong family, because after you would have gotten off the battlefield, whether it's Parliament or whether it's a meeting that you've attended or something, you need to go home to a place that you can really feel that you have support. But for me, after Hurricane Irma, I think would have been the biggest challenge. Sometimes I felt that it's all finished, it's over. We have no control over Barbuda anymore. We didn't even have control over the relief efforts. I mean, the Prime Minister installed nods in a way that didn't collaborate with the Barbuda Council, just totally took over everything that's happening there. And I think, we said to ourselves at one point, we need to take back Barbuda. So our biggest accomplishments and challenge, one, we decide one day we're going to form a ring around the fisheries complex, because at that time they basically took over the fisheries complex.
Yes.
The military, they lived there, we can't operate. So we said, listen, we're going to mobilize Barbudans, and we went to the fisheries complex, we formed a ring around them, all the officers came with their guns and so on, guns on their side, and we stood in solidarity. And we eventually got the keys back, and the military was evicted. We said after that we needed to operate. The council administration building was taken over by the military again. I think it was Major Michael at that time. And we said, how is it that the major can be operating and the council administration is not functioning? So again, they sent the military. I remember one particular military guy, I think he was in the reserve, and he sounded Jamaican to me, and we went up there and we said, listen, today's the last day we want the military in this building, because the council need to function. We need to do our office work and administration. I said, oh, y'all can't do this over here. I was sent here and so on. And Mr. Walker, if you talk too much and so on, we're going to lock you up and so on. I said, well, you have to lock us up, because it's not only me you're going to lock up, you're going to lock up all the members of council. And myself, Kendra Beezer, all of us, we stood there and we said we're not moving. And we eventually went down and we changed the lock. And that is how we got them out of that building. So those two incidents, when I look back at where we were and how we had to strive and defend ourselves against a wicked government led by Gaston Brown, who wanted to intimidate us, who wanted to make sure they'd break us. But they couldn't break our spirit. He could break us, but not our spirit. And those things are things that will live with me for the rest of my life. And I just want to say thank you to the Barbudan people for believing in us. Not only me as your leader, and in us for defending that little rock we call Barbuda.
Brother Trevor, you know, one of the things that I notice about Barbudans, and very, very different from Antiguans, you are very strong people.
We are.
You know, that strength of character and that defiance. I remember as a young journalist, there was supposed to be a housing project that was the Honorable the late Sir Lester Bird was setting up in Barbuda. And the Barbudans throwing an entire container and bulldozer and equipment over into the sea. I remember when llamas and alpacas were supposed to be shipped to Barbuda, and they had to divert those llamas and alpacas to Billy Island and some of the other offshore islands. The strength and fortitude and resilience and perseverance of the Barbudan spirit. I want to see that in Antigua. I want to see that in my Antigua, Brother Trevor.
Well,
can you just infuse some of that into us?
Well, I mean, let me say, whenever you want something, you have to fight. Moses did not get to the promised land without impediments. He had the Red Sea. He had Pharaoh's army. He had a lot of, he had wild beasts that tried to attack them. At one point, he had no food. You understand?
Yes.
So I'm saying all that to say, these journeys are not easy.
Yes.
You got to persevere. And you got to start. The one thing I always preach to people, you have to stand on some kind of principle. You can't be here today and here tomorrow and wishy-washy if somebody come and talk too nice to you. And you got to stand on some kind of principle.
Yes.
Then is when you'll be respected. And that is what I think the Barbudans have demonstrated over the years. Mind you, you always have those on the other side. But the majority of the people are resolute. Barbuda belongs to us. We'll share it. But nobody should dictate to us as to what happens there. I always say, if I fall ill in the night, I cannot drive to Sir Lester Bird Medical Center. When I want a birth certificate, I cannot drive to the civil registry. When I want a driver's license, I cannot drive to transport board. So why should we not cherish the fact that we're surviving and having to access those services in a particular way? This is just a human nature. So if persons in Antigua don't realize that democracy is about participating in a process, then you fall to autocracy and to dictatorship, which Antigua is leaning towards in a particular way. And if we're not careful, it's going to be too late before we can pull that bull back.
Well, I'm seeing a lot of fear. A lot of fear has blanketed this country.
And it's sad.
Over the past 8 years.
It's sad.
We're going to take another commercial break, and we're going to come right back with our discussion with MP Trevor Walker. And of course, he is the political leader of the Barbuda People's Movement as well. Do stay with us on The Right Choice.
Your country vote. This is the urgency of now. The United Progressive Party.
First, he gassed us. Then he lied to us.
We have made it abundantly clear that no one, absolutely no one in our country will be vaccinated if they do not wish to be. We uphold that right and respect it.
Can we really trust him not to implement mandates for children aged 5 to 11? Vote them out!
ready. Are you ready? Beautiful people, are you ready to get off your feet and release that blue energy? We'll move to the front of the class and throw your hands up in the air for the right rhythm. The right rhythm, a weekly musical experience featuring Antigua and Barbuda's top DJs. 2 hours of musical entertainment every Friday night from 8 p.m. on UPP, YouTube TV, and streamed live on all media platforms, as well as Progressive 107.3 FM. It's the right rhythm, brought to you by the United Progressive Party. The right choice.
Welcome back to The Right Choice, and we're having a very interesting and intriguing discussion with the MP for Barbuda, the Honorable Trevor Mike Walker. I call him Mikey. Trevor Walker. And of course, he's also the political leader of the Barbuda People's Movement. And Brother Trevor, I asked this question of all of the candidates because part of the right choice is trying to get into the minds of the candidates so that the people of Antigua and Barbuda can know exactly who they're voting for, who are the people that are vying for leadership in this country. I get some rather interesting responses whenever I ask this question. What is something that I would never ever guess about you? I know a lot about you, so you're talking to the audience.
Yes. Well, I mean, people see me, a lot of people probably don't know that I'm an excellent cook. Excellent cook.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, I can say I cook on a daily basis to ensure that when my wife gets home, her meal is ready every day except for Friday and Sunday. My wife does it on Sunday. So I will develop a menu in my head every day. I make sure if I have to go to a meeting, I get up early in the morning, like 6 o'clock, and I prepare meals so that at the end of the day, my wife and myself can have a beautiful lunch on a daily basis. So I love cooking. It's something that my grandmother taught me. I love to cook local food. I love to cook it my way. And it's something that I look forward to on a daily basis, except Saturday and Friday and Sundays when my wife actually takes over.
Now, you see something here? These men in UPP and BPM, they seem to have a lot of great chefs. Because earlier in the series, we had Brother Alistair, he's a good chef. Brother Harold, our political leader, is also a good chef. I understand that Serpent Algernon Watts is also a good chef. We're going to have a cook-off.
No problem, and I'm ready because I'm going to make sure I showcase the Barbudan cuisine. Lobster, seafood, everything.
Deer meat.
And everything is organic. I mean, one of the things I like in Barbuda, I like mutton, I like lamb, sheep meat.
Wow.
And why I like it is because I buy it from this particular lady that raised them naturally. No antibiotic, only in grass and water. None of those pellet foods that you buy in the bag and so on. So nice, you know what I mean? When you cook that, man, you get it all how. You can bake it, you can stew it. It's excellent. So I like those local stuff because for me, not only nutritious, but it cooks different from the ones that you buy in the shop.
Okay, so we're going to have lamb on the menu.
Absolutely.
All right. Tell us 3 words. 3 words that you would describe, how Barbudans would describe you and how you would describe yourself.
3 words. I think that I'm caring. As I always said, I'm very measured.
Yes.
And I think I'm very humble. And I never forget my beginnings. And that's why I mentioned that before, because I came, as I said, grew up in a side of Barbuda that, was not easy per se. So I think those are the 3 words that will describe who I am. A lot of people, when I speak to them, you know, I don't like to jump to conclusions. I don't like to give people the idea that I know it all or I'm right, you know, because sometimes without all the information, you're wrong. And you might have some information based on something you're told, but you don't have enough information to make a valued judgment on that particular situation. So I'm like that, and people like to come back to me, and I think when they do that, they realize, listen, Mr. Walker really spoke to somebody or thought about it, and I trust what he's saying now, versus a knee-jerk reaction, and you know, you try to come up with something right away. So, you know, and I'm also very humble. You know, I'm not a person that lives a particular way. I like riding my motorcycle. Easter weekend is coming up, and you know, I'm going to put my knapsack on and go on my own motorcycle, go to the
and your helmet, please wear your helmet,
and go to the different campsites. And you know, I live very simple. I like simple life, and Barbuda is just a place that I would never trade for anywhere else, because again, we don't want it to be commercialized in a way that preclude us from enjoying these simple traits, you know, I mean, going fishing and enjoying fresh fish and being able to get lobster and so on without doing much in scuba diving and so on. These are the type of things that I think Barbudans, that defines us as a people in terms of how we live.
Great. Let's focus a little bit now, Brother Trevor, on plans for the sister island. Barbuda is a gem. And the sitting government certainly has seen it as a diamond to be honed. I think the term that was used is that Barbuda would become the breadbasket. Now, you were just part of the launch of the marketing of the tourism product for Barbuda. And Barbuda seems to be at a crossroads. You have done quite a lot of legwork interacting with Barbudans, certainly representing them in Parliament, talking about what is happening, the development that's happening in Barbuda right now. What would you say are the biggest concerns, the greatest issues right now facing the people of Barbuda?
Well, the biggest one right now is the land situation. And again, on the 3rd of May, which is 5 weeks from now or so, the Privy Council in London is hearing our case as to the status of our lands, whether or not the people of Barbuda have the rights we claim we do, or whether or not the Crown can do as it likes with our land. So for us, the most important issue right now, and I've reached out to persons in the diaspora. I spoke to a pastor this morning in upstate New York, and I'm putting this out to all our people that we need to pray for that particular day in terms of what's going to happen, because the matter went through the law courts, the appeal courts, and it's now at the Privy Council. And you know, the court, any court can rule anyway. I mean, there's no guarantees with the courts. But we are saying that having existed on that island for over 300 years, lived a particular way with our customs and our rights and so on, that the Barbudans do own it in common. And again, we're not precluding, you know, I mean, I want to be very clear. We are regionalists. I said it before and I want to say it again, that we welcome our Caribbean brothers and sisters, including Antiguans. I mean, we're well integrated. My brother is married to a Jamaican. We have a lot of Antiguans living there. We're not saying that we should be isolated, but we're saying that having had that occupation for so long, having our foreparents gone through so much for it when the Codringtons were there, and they refused to pay a lease for the land because they said, listen, what happened? During emancipation, the proclamation forgot Barbudans existed. Barbudans were not on that proclamation. And so Barbudans said, listen, after emancipation, we want to have rights to that piece of rock for cultivation, for survival, live off the sea, ensure that we use it for benefit. And so after a while, Barbudans weren't paying any rent at all for that land for hundreds of years. And that have to mean something. Mm-hmm. So we're saying, come the 3rd of May, we're hoping, nothing is guaranteed, we're confident that the Privy Council will find that we have some rights to that land. Because if that doesn't happen, and you have somebody like Gaston Brown in power, may the Most High God help us. Because you know, for him, Jackie, Gaston Brown is about land. He loved land. He loved housing project, anything with land to sell and cut up, and so he loved that. I see it over here, you know, with the Western Imperial, all things. When it comes to land, he don't care whether it's private or crown land. He loved land. And we're saying he must keep his hands off Barbuda land without or unless he gets the input and consent of the people of Barbuda. And that's all we're saying. When Baldwin Spencer was Prime Minister, nothing happened without involving the people. I can tell you straight up, you visited Barbuda, Jackie, as a Minister of Education many times. Involve the people. Why is it that we have to have a situation where a Prime Minister feels his imposition is what should be the order of the day without no consultations? So that is very important. That is the most burning issue, and that is something that we have to focus on full square until that hearing is heard.
And if we may just go back a little, because the Barbuda Land Act was passed by the UPP administration, and it was literally thrown out.
Yes, it was passed. Scrapped. Yeah, it was passed in 2007, and then Gaston Brown administration came in 2018, and so we're not gonna, we don't want that law anymore. It's we're gonna change it because we don't need to talk to the council or the people of Barbuda to do any development in Barbuda. Nobody said the law was perfect, but the law provided an opportunity to engage the people to see what they want. I mean, if you have a dog, Jackie, and somebody come and build a kennel behind your house, and you know you wanted it in front of your house, you wouldn't appreciate somebody just come and ask you where they're going to build the dog house. You understand? They must be come and say, Jackie, listen, I realize you're asking your sister for a dog house and so on and whatever, and consult you. And that is what we're saying. I mean, it has to be mutual respect. We're not a part of the landmass in Antigua where we have privileges like the regular and brothers and sisters in Antigua. So respect us. And that is something that this government don't seem to like. They're dictatorial. They're led by a dictator, in my view. That is just my humble view, because it seems like when policies are disseminated, we have to tune in on a Saturday at Pint FM to see what it is. And not even some of the ministers know some of the policies that the government seems to be putting out.
I don't too like that that analogy with the dog. I don't like this dog business, this dog house business.
Yes, that is true. Yes. Too much dogs.
Let's not talk about
too much dogs.
No, let's focus on the developments that are currently being undertaken on Barbuda. The PLH, Peace, Love and Happiness project, that is a major construction going on in Barbuda, and I plan to come over to Barbuda at some point to have a look at what's going on. You also have the airport project being undertaken. Tell us, how are these major projects helping Barbudans? Because I gather that quite a large number of Barbudans have been employed. Even the other day I met a young man, and I said, I don't see you at all over here in Antigua. He said, Jackie, me over in Barbuda working with PLH. You know, even Antiguans are going over to Barbuda to get jobs. Tell us about that development in Barbuda.
Well, the PLH project started after Hurricane Irma in 2017, and it is something that is ongoing. Yes, it employs people, and quite a few Barbudans. I think it employs, you know, in excess of almost 200 Barbudans, which is a lot in terms of our population. And yes, it employs Antiguans and persons from further afield. I know they have an expat community, and they do also have persons from the Caribbean region, Jamaicans and so on, which makes up the working population. But our problem is, and our issue is, let me use the word issue, is that any development that comes to your country should benefit the people of the country. And I have said it before, benefits, economic development is not only a job. Economic development means that your society as a whole get transformed. The pillars of your society are rejuvenated. All right? You have sustainable growth, because this is what propels economic activity. This is what the consumption pattern depends on. That is what economic development is. Lift your standard of living. All right, because if you only pin it to a job, then when you do something and you're terminated, then what happens to you? You're just you're left out of the loop and your economic development stops, right? So it's more holistic than a job. And we're saying that the Peace, Love and Happiness Project is not putting that into Barbuda. And I'm very frank with that. It's not going into Barbuda because the 200 Barbudans that's working now, next year, 2 years from now, we'll decide to let go 100 or 150 of them. Is Barbuda developing because some people are working there when we're not working? So, you know, in a nutshell, my view is that the whole project has to be reassessed. The project has to involve Barbudans to a point where Barbudans are the beneficiary, not only beneficiaries, but it helps the community as a whole. You understand? So the only thing we're getting from it now is some jobs. It's not enough. It is not enough. And I'm very frank, I shoot very straight. You cannot have everything coming to Antigua, or lease money coming to Antigua, our ABST coming to Antigua, all our other taxes coming to Antigua, the money that they pay for the topsoil in Barbuda coming to Antigua, the tonnage dues that should be paid to us coming to Antigua. I can't represent Barbudans and allow that and agree with that. All right? So notwithstanding the stuff that you have said, my position is more holistic, and that is the economic part of it. Now, you have the environmental part of it. That is something else as well. They're building a golf course in a Ramsar site. A site, Ramsar means a site of international significance in terms of environmental...
A protected site.
Protected site.
Yes.
Ecosystems, etc. All right? And we have had several experts, including the environment people in Antigua, who have warned and cautioned that. So I don't want to go into that in very much detail because that's sub judice before the courts. But there's several issues. So if this project is to be a project that Barbudans embrace holistically, there are many issues that must be dealt with. And what is wrong in saying how you feel? When you do that, you're called an economic terrorist. I'm the leader. You have a hurricane coming this hurricane season that decimates Barbuda again and cut the Palmetto Point area so all the chemicals is mixed up into the lagoon and there's a disaster. The record must show that Trevor Mike Walker spoke about it. Trevor Mike Walker looked at the empirical evidence coming from the scientists, the marine biologists, and agreed based on the empirical information, not on semantics because it looks good or people have some jobs, right? That's a political price I might pay, but history will always vindicate me with that.
Now, that same project, if we keep on that for a little bit, I have heard you talk about the full empowerment of Barbudans, not just jobs now, but contractors, people who have heavy-duty equipment, people who have services and products to offer to the PLH developers. Are Barbudans getting those opportunities to be able to offer these kinds of services?
And those are the peripherals of economic development as well, because it is much different for you to be a truck driver than for you to own the truck.
That's right.
You understand?
And to offer a contract.
And offer a contract to you. Yes, I'm making some money because I'm a truck driver, but you're more powerful when you own the truck. You understand? So I have to sometimes bring it down to that level so that person understand what the whole situation is about. And with that project, I've said that those heavy-duty equipment are owned by persons other than Barbudans, and that cannot be right, including, and I'm saying it again, government ministers, which is appalling, especially those 2 excavators that's operating on the Gulf Coast, and that minister know who he is. You understand? So when we're servants of the people and we decide we're going to be in the front of the line, as I always say, you know, then you're serving yourself. You're enriching yourself. You're not doing justice to the people. And so why should I, as a member of parliament for Barbuda, accept all Barbudans as truck drivers? I think we have 1 backhoe operator and so on, and 2 excavator operators. Well, we can't own the trucks. We can't own some excavators. PLH, just like they do over here, can't give John Doe a contract so that he can go to the bank get a loan and the contract pays for itself for the work that they're doing? Well, we don't deserve that. We're not good enough. Well, we don't have the head for that. All we can do is to drive a truck and operate the excavator. No, man, we're better than that. We can do better than that. And I will stand for those things. It might cost me politically, but at the end of the day, when the history books are written, I will be vindicated.
Tell us about the status of the airport, because I gather that work had stopped for some time. There were some caves and something with the environment, and we're not very, very clear. I want some clarity on this. We're not clear as to the status of that airport. Tell us.
Jack, even myself, I'm not very clear. As a member of Parliament for Barbuda, I'm not very clear because we don't get any information. I came over to Antigua this morning and I flew over the airport. I noticed the runway is paved. I mean, we're denied access into the airport. The last time we tried to get in, we weren't allowed in. I noticed flying over it, it's painted, you know, the airport has these lines and so it looks from the air, I mean, paved and so on, but I'm not sure what the status is because clearly this government...
It has a terminal building and all of that.
There's no terminal building. All that's there is a runway. Even the airport premises itself, of course, I mean, is not even close to ready to accept private jet in my view, or planes in my view, because there's still a lot of huge boulders on the sides and so on. So it appears as if they're cleaning that up. But what I would say is that we don't have the information, and I'm just hoping in earnest that since the airport is in Barbuda, at least they can give us the information as to what the situation is. My understanding is from what the Prime Minister said in the Parliament is that they've borrowed huge sums, millions of dollars from PLH to do the runway and also to do the terminal, which, by the way, didn't get parliamentary approval. And I'm still waiting, Prime Minister, according to the Finance Administration Act. You have 6 months for you to bring to the Parliament any loan that you have entered into without parliamentary approval. So you haven't gone to the Parliament initially. The Finance Administration Act gives you 6 months to bring those things to the Parliament, and you're outside of that. So I'm hoping that he'll bring them with the supplementary appropriations so that the people can see what arrangement have you entered into with PLH for millions of dollars to be spent on an airport in Barbuda.
So is it a loan or is PLH building a private airport?
It's, according to the Prime Minister, questions the Prime Minister, it's a loan. So we want to see the terms of the loan. Okay. We want to see exactly how much years you have to pay it back. We want to see how much is the loan itself. And the conditions, of course, in terms of how the loan will be operated, right? So those are things we're yet to see, and that is why I said in government, transparency is important. People don't trust you if you're not transparent. Come to the Parliament. The law says you should have brought that to Parliament via motion or a bill so that Parliament could approve that. Bring it to the Parliament. And that is something.
And accountability.
And accountability as well.
We're going to take another break. This is really intriguing television, riveting television with MP Trevor Walker. Please put your comments in. We're going to be taking some of those comments at the end of the program. Please do stay with us on The Right Choice.
ALP, how we uplift the youth them and not create more jobs in the country. Yeah. Vote them out, we come and vote them out. We come and vote them out, we come and vote them out. We gonna vote them out, we come and vote them out. We come and vote them out, we come and vote them out. We come and vote them out, we come and vote them out. We come and vote them out, we come and vote them out.
We have made it abundantly clear that no one, absolutely no one in our country will be vaccinated if they do not wish to be. We uphold that right and respect it.
You hear lie? That is lie. Lie? You hear lie?
I just feel like people not understand me. I don't want to even give me a chance. Go to school, my hard skill. I'm a hard worker, but there's just not enough jobs out there. The economy is so bad that I'm ashamed to say that we're in the year 2022 and water hardly won near the pipe. Now them can't tell how we, in order to get a job, I must take the job. I understand the vaccine is a good thing and all that, but I just hate the fact that it's mandated. It's my body, it's my choice. I shouldn't be denied a job, education or benefits because the choices I make for my body. For me, this time, personally, the UPP is the right choice because they are the party of choice.
It's time to join the family at the People's Cooperative Credit Union Limited. We offer savings accounts, deposits, fixed deposits, loans, among other related services. You can even become a shareholder by purchasing a minimum of 50 shares at $5 per share. Membership is super easy and convenient. Just visit our newly opened credit union building on Upper Newgate Street, Monday to Fridays, 8:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. with proof of ID and address, along with $15 to cover registration and passbook. And you'll be set and on your way. For further information, call 462-8888 or 727-2285. People's Cooperative Credit Union Limited. Today, tomorrow, together.
Welcome back to The Right Choice, and we are talking with the Member of Parliament for Barbuda, Brother Trevor Walker, the Honourable Trevor Walker, and he's also the political leader of the Barbuda People's Movement. We're going to try to get in a couple of your comments and questions because I see a lot of you are vying to get those comments in. Someone says plenty money in a land sale. I'm not going to say that part. The law will be changed with the new government. Oh dear me, our battery's going down. BPM and UPP, the right choice. The Grabston dictator clown. No, we're not going to go there. We keep this program at a very high level. Pray in the next election there will be a change so we can make Barbudans comfortable on their homeland. God bless you, sir. Keep the faith. I agree with Mr. Walker. Somebody says PLH has a negative environmental impact on Barbuda. Another person says Barbuda is too flat with extreme fragile ecosystems. Must be considered before large-scale developments like PLH. Another person says, kudos, Trevor Walker, you are a brilliant gentleman. That is what leadership sounds like. Lots of these are from Barbudans. I'm seeing all the Barbudan names like Ned and Thomas. God will make a way, and whatever it is, he has his reasons. But he said the wicked will only flourish for a while, Brother Walker. They shall be cut down. So the Barbudans can tear him apart. No. We're not going there with violence at all. What is here is a question for you. What is the condition or status of water and electricity on Barbuda now? You can answer that. Somebody else says, Fear Antigua and Barbuda, we thy sons and daughters stand firm, strong, in peace or danger. My rep, Trevor Walker, the right choice for Barbuda all the way. So if you could just answer that question, lots of positive comments, Brother Walker. What is the status of electricity and water on the Sister Isle?
Well, for the last, I would say week or so, we have had maybe a little bit more than a week. We have been having some outages, electricity outages. I understand they have one generator and they have some issues. The upside to that is we have that solar project that was sponsored by the United Arab Emirates, I think, government, collaboration with New Zealand, and I think we got some monies from the Caribbean Development Fund. So we have that project to come on stream. It's a solar project, green project, something that we support, and we're hoping that when that comes on stream, most of those issues would go away. The water situation is not so bad. It can be improved. I understand now because I saw it yesterday. They're putting in a second reverse osmosis plant. And by the way, I must say that first reverse osmosis plant was negotiated for under the UPP government. When I was a Minister of State in the Prime Minister's office, PDVSA and so on, we did that whole thing with getting a tank and a reverse osmosis plant for Barbuda. It was, however, installed afterwards. But that first plant that's existing now was actually negotiated for by the UPP government. The second plant that they're going to put in, my understanding is it's part of our, what do you call it again, the whole we do in Barbuda after Hurricane Irma. The Caribbean Development Bank created some avenues for us through Canada and other countries in terms of donations, where part of the rehabilitation process, that's the word I was looking for, that water would be on the front burner in terms of installing a new plant. So that plant is going in now. My own impression is that when that second plant goes in, our water problem should really be non-existent. So it's not so bad, but most of those two plants are paid for outside of the scope of the government of Antigua and Barbuda, which is sad, based on the situation.
Now, Brother Trevor, a lot of people may not have known that I lived in Barbuda as a little girl. I have a brother who was born in Barbuda, and when the United Progressive Party government got into office, there was mammoth development of Barbuda, taking Barbuda from a dark, dismal, underdeveloped, no infrastructure place to a place that people can feel proud to live on the Sister Isle. I want to give you the opportunity, Brother Trevor, to talk to us about those 10 years that you sat in cabinet and the sorts of developments that went to Barbuda under the UPP administration.
Excellent.
Lest we forget, because a lot of us have short memories in this country here.
And let me go back to electricity. I remember prior to 2004, Barbuda had power outages probably on a daily basis. And I said to the then Prime Minister Baldwin Spencer, I was actually a Minister of State in the Prime Minister's office, that we need to fix that problem. Not only we had power outages, but Barbuda had what we call low voltage all over the island. In other words, if you're supposed to be getting 110, you're getting like 92 and 95 and so on in terms of voltage. And so a project was underway, and the then government decided that they're going to do a whole rehabilitation of that whole system in Barbuda. They planted 176 new poles, changed those old poles, 176 of them. They changed all the high tension wires, all those wires that take the electricity to your home. They changed all of them. 3 generators. We got to a point where they were synchronized, so when one goes down, you don't have to turn off that to put on the other one. The other one cuts in automatically. So the whole system was upgraded. I mean, that was one of my proudest moments, because people could do their schoolwork at home, you could have church, you could have everything and so on without having to believe that electricity would come off. The second thing is our infrastructure. It's the first time we had asphalt roads in Barbuda. I mean, the Ministry of Public Works went beyond the call of duty to ensure that those roads were developed. I remember one lady, one night she just took off her high heels and said, "Now I can walk on good road." You know what I mean? I mean, it was something that just really elevated our spirit in terms of how Barbuda was actually moving forward. Then the Baldwin Spencer administration decided they wanted to put some new lights on the Codrington Airport, and not only that, resurface the entire runway. That was done under this government, the UPP government. The scholarships I spoke about, first time Barbudans are going overseas to study and to get degrees and to make sure that they can be a part of society and that type of thing. I mean, those things, I come into those, you know. Then you go now to the fisheries complex. You know, I remember before it came to Barbuda under the previous government, the Gaston Brown, the Lester Bird administration, Gaston Brown apparently was the Minister of Planning or whatever he was. The Japanese told us that because Barbuda is the biggest fishing community within the state, that they proposed that a fishing complex go to Barbuda. But Gaston Brown huffed it for the point area, all right? And I remember coming to office, the then Prime Minister Baldwin Spencer said, "Listen, we have to revive this." And we did a lot of work. I remember traveling to Trinidad and we got the Japanese to agree. And they built a multi-million-dollar fishing complex in Barbuda that still exists today and operating today. the community center, Ambassador Shawl at the time. I said, listen, we need some place that we can have activities, receptions, even a community center that includes computer classes and all that. Mm-hmm. That was built. So there was a whole slew of things that happened in Barbuda under the United Progressive Party between 2004 and 2014. And I want Barbudans to understand and to recognize, when you compare the 28 years of the Labour Party, name me one thing that the Labour Party has done in Barbuda to develop us as a people and our society during those 28 years. One thing. And the one thing that they brag about today, which is the PLH project, it is a bread basket. It's not benefiting us. You get a job, you're working. Yes, but what happens if you're not working? Everything comes to Antigua. You understand? So I want to say to you, Jackie, that the Baldwin administration transformed not only Barbuda physically, but the lives of Barbudan. Mm-hmm. I think those days, Barbudans felt a part of the state. I can tell you, as a minister of government, there were no restrictions on me as a Barbudan. I mean, I was treated equally like anybody else in cabinet as a minister of government, and I felt like I was a true Antiguan and Barbudan. Today, I feel marginalized, and it's a shame how this government has decided to just take from Barbuda without putting in anything back for the people.
No, Brother Walker, come the 15th of June. I've been using that date. And a lot of people have been messaging me and saying, Jackie, where you get that 15th of June? 15th of June is my son's birthday. Come the 15th of June and you are re-elected as MP for Barbuda. What is the first thing, the very first thing that you will address?
Well, let me say that the 15th of June, if that is the date, I would hope that I'm elected with a UPP government. So that's the first thing. So I would not want to be elected with a gas and broad administration. So Antiguans, you have to understand, when that time comes, it's not Barbuda alone, because Barbuda is safe. God is with us. I can say this without fear, that God is not going to allow us to go back into the clutches of the Antigua Labour Party. So I am depending on you, the people of Barbuda depending on you all, I have to say you all Antigans, to do the right thing when the time comes. You cannot afford to go back to a government that will turn into a full dictatorship if they're re-elected. Please do that for us.
Finally, sir, I want you to look into that camera, speak to your constituents in Codrington, in Barbuda, speak to the nation of Antigua and Barbuda as a whole, and tell them what makes you, Trevor Walker, and the BPM the right choice.
I want to say first to my Barbudan brothers and sisters, the BPM has been and still is the only party that has defended your rights, our rights as a people. It's the only party that has said, listen, your asset, what our foreparents fought hard for, some were burnt alive. I read some articles and so on that some Barbudans, because they refused to conform to certain things, were burnt alive just to enjoy the benefits of the land that they occupied at the time. We cannot throw that away. We cannot allow a government like the Gaston Brown administration to come and tell us after 300 years, come and tell us now after 300 years that we're tenants, that he has the right to tell us, listen, get off. We cannot allow that. It cannot be acceptable. And so the only party that's defending those rights is the BPM, the party that I lead. I'm humbled to be a leader, that you have the confidence in me for over 18 years. It's a long time to lead you on a path that will get you a better life. We're almost there. We have that 3rd of May Privy Council case coming up. We're almost there. Every leader has a mission and goal, because we have to remember in the scriptures, when Moses led the people to the promised land, his job was finished. He didn't go over. So God will tell me what my tenure will be. But I want you to understand that whatever it is, I want to do it to the best of my ability. And you must stay focused, people. Make sure that when the time comes, you return the BPM candidate to Parliament. And finally, to my Antiguan brothers and sisters, there's a lot to be desired. There's a lot to be desired with the way you defend your rights. You have to be more aggressive. You have to understand that what you're fighting for is not for you alone, it's for your children. You have to understand that this is something that you're expected to do because it's the right thing to do. People should not tell you and dictate to you on a daily basis, a weekly basis, as to how Antigua should move forward. You should be a part of the process. And when something is wrong, that's one of the problems I have, you must call it out and say it's wrong. We ought not to stay silent. Because when good people or good men stay silent, you know what happens? Evil prevails. I'm calling on the Christian Council, all the legs of society, pillars of society, to stand up and call wrong, wrong, and right, right. And let us do the right thing and elect a government come the next election that put God's first, the people second, and make sure that everybody progress together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brother Trevor. It has really been a joy and a special delight and pleasure to sit and speak to you here this evening. And I know that our audience, they too appreciate having you come here and speak on the right choice. And the BPM and the UPP, you know my views on the BPM and UPP. This is actually a coalition of sorts.
It is.
How is it that people saying there's no coalition? There's a coalition here.
We're working together. We have
exactly.
Yes.
We've been speaking, ladies and gentlemen, with the Honorable Trevor Mike Walker, 3-term elected MP of Barbuda and the political leader of the Barbuda People's Movement. Join us again next week, same day, same time, for another edition of The Right Choice. Our guests next week will be Senator Richard Lewis and Brother Courtwright Marshall. I'm Jackie Quinn. Continue to enjoy your evening.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Beautiful people, are you ready to get off your feet and release that blue energy? We'll move to the front of the class and throw your hands up in the air for The Right Rhythm. The Right Rhythm, a weekly musical experience featuring Antigua and Barbuda's top DJs. 2 hours of musical entertainment every Friday night from 8 p.m. on UPP, YouTube TV, and streamed live on all media platforms, as well as Progressive 107.3 FM. It's The Right Rhythm, brought to you by the United Progressive Party. The right choice.
My father died when I was just 5 years old. My mother came from Williki's village. She had 5 young mouths to feed, and she toiled on her sewing machine to make ends meet. She was a strong woman who taught us right from wrong. And even though she struggled, the choices she made put us on the right path. I made the choice to work hard, play by the rules, and get an education. I had a number of opportunities, but I chose to return to Antigua and inspire the next generation. I taught at the Antigua Grammar School, and it's here that I saw firsthand how education transforms lives. I made the choice to get into politics because of the lack of resources that I saw in our schools. I saw how our teachers and families struggled, whilst an elite few got ahead. When the people granted us the opportunity to serve in government, we had a lot of work to do. As Minister of Finance, I helped to clean up the rot of 30 years of one-party rule. We saw our country through the global financial crisis and the Stanford collapse. Through all of that, we introduced the school meals program, the school uniform program, and laptops for children. While we were not perfect, no one is perfect but Almighty God. We work day in and day out to defend the nation and put people first. Today I see too many families struggling for a lack of jobs and the mental stress that comes with it. The cost of living is out of control. And for too many of us, water is still not readily available. And our needed pension checks are not coming on time. While the elite few did well, the ABLP denied you the right to choose what you put in your body. Whilst we believe in vaccines, we don't believe it's the responsibility of government to control your bodies. We will bring an end to all the mandates. This election is about choice, and we believe that we are the right choice because we give you the choice.
First, he gassed us. Then, he lied to us.
We have made it abundantly clear that no one, absolutely no one in our country will be vaccinated if they do not wish to be. We uphold that right and respect it.
Can we really trust him not to implement mandates for children aged 5 to 11? Vote them out!
The United Progressive Party. The right choice.